Got it.
Okay, we had a few problems and we're going now. So thanks for joining with us. Sue Eller is someone I've known for a number of years. I just mentioned, but I won't tell you how many. Um, but she's a good writer and she writes fun things. So I asked if she would be so kind as to come in the day after July 4th, which is kind of, that's messing with people because a lot of people are on vacation and that. So, but I was so pleased that she accepted and also pleased that so many folks have shown up. So thank you very much. Um, Sue, in addition to being a writer, which she'll talk about in a minute, I'll explain, she's also the president of the group called Spokane Authors and Self-Publishers. And so it's really great that she would take the time to be with us. And if you have any interest in that organization, you'd be able to ask me about it, or she can give you the site address or what have you. And anyway, I want Sue to tell you a little bit about how you got started writing, Sue. You remember when that happened when you first?
Oh, I do.
Okay.
It was third grade. We had to write a story for third grade, and I still remember the story. And it was a mystery because I love Nancy Drew. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I think we're picking up some stuff from Sue's computer, and maybe folks can mute themselves until we're that may help us.
Okay, test 5, 6, 7, 8. How's that?
There you go.
Because we already missed out on 1, 2, 3, 4. Anyway, my first story that I can remember, I wrote in third grade, and I still remember the story, and it was a mystery because I liked Nancy Drew. That was one of my favorites at that time, and I may resurrect it and put it in my next short story book, which I put together some of my short stories in. Let me show you this. This is, I called it Short Trips to Alternate Universes because it was just all different kinds of stories. And most of them are fiction, and most of them will make you laugh. But there's even a poem in there, which I'm not really a poet. But I did win the limerick contest one year that the Spokesman Review used to have, and that's my one other effort in poetry. So, but I've done that. I wrote my series of mysteries, Emily Trace, but I also wrote the first almost full-length book was novella, and it was more sci-fi and dystopian future kind of thing. And like I said, it was my first, it's not really a chapter book, and this is not really a kid's book. This is more, but there's nothing, no swear words in my books. I just don't do that. If somebody in my story decides they want to swear, they get the little things like they used to do in the comic strip with the asterisk and the $sign and the exclamation point and all that, because that's what I do. So anyway, that was my very first one. Books in Motion picked it up, the local audiobook place. And Gary Schallander wanted it because it was shorter, and they used to give the truckers cassette tapes, and they could check them in one place and check them out in one place and turn them back in another. And that went on for several years, but I did keep all the rights except their audio production. And I made money on it. I didn't get rich, but I made money on it. And I went back to him several years later, and he told me to go across the parking lot to this other guy that knew all about the Create Space and Amazon and all that. And he suggested that I do that for the print version. And so I did, and I went to Las Vegas and took a picture of the strip, and I knew how to do Photoshop and all that. So that's where I came up with the cover. I'll show it to you one more time. And it has little spaceships in the
She's
background
selling
coming
her
in.
books here. She wants you to know what they are for some silly reason. I don't know.
Oh, well, anyway.
Oh, I'm
So,
joking, Sue.
what's that?
I said I'm joking. Don't
Oh, no, I do that. Um,
for you. That's
so
what I was
I
pointing
also,
out.
what?
I was pointing out you're a good bookseller.
Oh, well, thank you. Um, and I did take my books down to Auntie's, the Emily Trace series, so they're available there. The first two I are in the Spokane City and County libraries and up in the Sandpoint area in that library also.
Mhm.
There's a wonderful place called Spark Central down in Kendall Yards that my books have been, all my books are in there. And so if you are a member or if you happen to pop in there and talk to them and join up, it's free. You can check out my books from there. I've been on Stephen Pitter's radio show and the one that does the page turner on KYRS, both of them are. And I also have I've done some sports writing and reporting for a little newspaper in the past, not now, but they invited me to a celebrity challenge and I won a trophy that says don't quit your day job because it was last place. It was fantasy football. So that's kind of what's in the background there with my Star Trek poster and my clock and Middle Earth map in case you ever go to Middle Earth, you won't get lost. Anyway, so that's what I do. Now I also write for Art Chowder magazine. And I'm really proud of this latest. This isn't the latest. The latest one just came out and I haven't got my copy yet. But I did an article on Joey Marcella, who is a local sculptor and he does some amazing work. So that was a fun one to do. I've done quite a few for them over the last 4 years, I think. So I kind of stay busy. I've been in 2 anthologies besides my own. This one, the group that I'm in put out a few years ago. And this was the Spokane Rights one put out by the Spokane County Library. And I have a couple of stories. There's one in each one of those.
I
So
think
I
that's
stay
where I
busy.
first think that's where I first discovered you was
No, I think I
right.
was coming to your meetings before that, maybe. But
Really?
it was about that time. It was about that time.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and that's probably about the time I met Sharma Shields too. So she's another one that's done awesome things for writers around this town.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's basically my history of writing, which has been pretty much, my mom used to write too. She sent away for a correspondence course and she had a whole wall full of books when I was growing up, and I read every single one of them by the time I was in 9th grade. So I've always read a lot, and that's one thing that's really good if you're a writer is read a lot. And if you're a reader, of course you're going to read a lot. So, you had another question, Linda?
Well, yeah, I was wondering about because I really like your mystery series. At least I'm reading this one, the first,
Uh-huh.
and what made you decide? I know you said your first story was a mystery when you were a kid, right?
Yeah, it was one page handwritten
Yeah,
on school paper.
it sounds like mine. Um, but this character, Emily Trace, is interesting. I'm kind of curious how you came up with her.
You want the backstory? Okay, I could
Sure.
tell you. When I was growing up, I grew up down in a little town called Tico, and it's south and east of here, almost on the Washington-Idaho border. And my grandma used to take us to Spokane every once in a while, and we would be driving along and she'd say, "Oh, there's a meadowlark," but we could hear it, but we could never see it. And when I got to thinking about writing a mystery, I thought, what if there really weren't any of those birds around and we just heard a recording that went off whenever we drove past? And that was the beginning of Meadowlark Madness. But there are well, not real meadowlarks, but there are meadowlarks in there. The main character, she had to have a private eye name because that's what she was. And so I thought Trace was a good last name.
Mhm.
But I also, for the comedy effect, her initials had to be E.T.
That's good.
because she named her private eye business ET Investigations.
Mhm.
And because of that, she gets all these people that want her to help them with like UFO sightings and uh, alien abductions and
Mhm.
strange things in the sky and, all that. So that's how I came up with her name. And I thought Emily worked really well with Trace. So it's
Mhm.
Emily Trace.
Good. It does. It does.
And the meadowlarks play a big part in this. That's her very first customer. The setting, it opens up with her sitting at her desk waiting for somebody to show up after 6 months of opening her business. And she was running out of money and thought, okay, she's not going to be able to pay the rent. Let's do it 5 o'clock. And at 4 o'clock, this guy comes in and hires her and bails her out of her financial dilemma. And that's how the story begins. And I love my characters. They're kind of conglomerates of observations I've made about humans that I've known. And so I kind of jumble them all together. And I've studied people a lot too, not in school, but just by observation. And so I figured out a little bit about what people are like and tried to make them real, tried to give them individual characteristics and things. Um, if
For
you
the
think about
writers here, for the
yeah,
writers here today, did you have any problems with the first book that you sort of ironed out in later books that you would warn writers about?
no, it took me quite a while to write the first book, and that's because of life getting in the way. I'd work on it for a while, and then something would happen, and I'd have to leave it for a little bit, and then I'd have to go back and reread everything I'd written to remind myself, before I
Mhm.
was at. But I was careful, took my time, wasn't trying to meet a deadline like you have to do with newspapers and magazines. And so I don't know, I just really enjoyed it. And I went back through these three, and after I'd learned quite a bit, because Meadowlark Madness first got published, I believe, in 2013. I have to look here. Yeah, I think so. And so this is the second edition
Mhm.
because the first one had a few things in it. I thought, maybe I don't want that. And I caught some errors when I went back through. In fact, in the when I think it was, no, it was the second one, Taming of the T-Bird. I was reading through it just to kind of check everything out, and all of a sudden, they're talking about finding a dead man, and Emily has to go identify him as a doctor that she went to see, a hypnotherapist. And I was talking about it, and she said, "Well, what makes you think it could be this guy?" And the detective says, "Well, because he was wearing," and that was the end of the sentence. And I'm going, "Oh my gosh, people that have given me feedback on that never noticed either." So I fixed it. That's one of the things that I like about self-publishing, because I've done both. Um, I'm careful. I don't have to meet a deadline, and I don't have to run it by anybody else, and I don't have to pay them. I
Uh-huh.
mean, I have, you know, if I wasn't really, really good at editing, which I do for a living too, I would probably want, and in fact, I've had other people read them and give me feedback, but beta readers are a good idea too, because sometimes they'll catch errors like that. And you do get so close into the story that sometimes you miss things that would be something to look at, to watch for. Um, if you have 2 or 3 people that are willing to read your book and give you feedback, um, and they aren't charging you an arm and a leg, I'd say sometimes even if they do, it's worth it. But having other people look at your book is pretty vital. And I had my kids read chapter by chapter when I was writing these, and that always helped too. So
All
I have
right.
my own
What,
thing.
and what is the third one in the series? You showed the second one.
Okay, I will get to that right now. It's called Sin in the Drones. And it's not what you might think, because this particular drone uh, appeared as a box of spare parts that one of her customers brought in and dumped all over the floor. And tripped and dumped it all over the floor, didn't dump it out on purpose.
Uh-huh.
And they got together and rebuilt it. And as soon as they plugged in the power source, it turned invisible
Whoa.
and went rogue. And so that's where that got started. And then she discovered some little, they had a 3D printer, which I researched that too. And she hears this funny noise when she's in her office late at night. They have a 3D printer and it's just humming right along. And here's these little drones, probably really tiny, just maybe 3 or 4 inches wide. And she's watching as the pieces come out of the 3D printer. And here's these little drones picking up pieces and putting together another drone. So in other words, they're self-replicating. And
Oh.
yeah, but they're benign. It's the one with the feathers that was attacking
Well,
people
you
and
said it.
things.
You said it became invisible, so it sounds like you're meshing a little sci-fi in there, or
Oh
no?
yeah, I always do in my stories. Well, maybe not the nonfiction, but the fiction ones. I have a chemistry and physics and math background and computers, so um, that's what I studied in college. So uh, I didn't take literature classes. I took science classes and I worked in a mining assay lab, and I worked in a pharmaceutical company that in quality control and research and development. And this is more fun. I like the lab work, but this is way more fun.
But it gave you a good background for your
Yes,
writing. Lots of things
yes.
you learned. Yeah. And
Write
you
what
mentioned,
you know or what you can imagine. And of course, as you can see, I've always been a fan of Star Trek. So
yeah, me too. Probably a lot of the folks on the screen here. You mentioned you're working on the fourth book in the series too.
oh yes. And it has a title. The title is Through Solid Rock. And at the beginning scene, she's being chased down a country road at night, and she knows the road, but whoever's chasing her, she's hoping they don't. And there's a sharp turn coming up, and she's like, "How am I going to get out of this? If I can make this turn, um, they'll have to slow down or maybe even crash." I mean, she wasn't wishing anybody bad luck, but she was needing to get away from this, whoever it was. And all of a sudden, an alien is in the seat beside her and grabs the steering wheel and won't let her turn. And they go through this rock face and end up somewhere else. And that's all I'm going to tell you about that. But that's the
Oh
beginning.
my. Well, you've certainly piqued my interest, and I expect everybody else's too.
Yes. And I'm
Right.
hoping to finish that this year. Fingers crossed.
I wonder if others have questions or comments for Sue. You can go and be sure to unmute if you do want to ask something. Hey, Dan.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, we got Grace and Dan are unmuted. Who wants to go first?
You can go ahead, Dan.
Oh, no, go ahead. I didn't have a question. I was just enjoying the conversation.
Okay,
I just picked up my phone to
Um,
see if I'm muted.
go ahead, Grace.
if it's okay, Sue, I'd love to ask about your editing, like just what you do for like the editing work that you do.
Oh, it's pretty much proofreading. I do and sentence structure and grammar and all that. I invested in a program called Grammarly in the professional version, and that is like the industry standard. But I did a lot of proofreading when I was at that little newspaper. 5 of us proofread every issue, and we were all good at English. And because it came out every week, we had a retired teacher that would write us and tell us all the little errors that slipped through her hand. But there weren't very many. But I learned even more about proofreading, and I felt like if I can help people to at least get that part of their story cleaned up, I guess you could call it, then that's what I do. I don't do, now I'm trying to think of the name of it. When you go through the content and say, well, maybe this is not what you need to do here, you need
Content
to,
editing.
yeah. Yes, but the proofreading part I'm really good at, so that's what I do. And
I'm good at telling people that I got lost. That's my thing.
and
I
that's
can see-
valuable too. So and then I've dabbled in cover design. I do all my own covers because I like to. And I have a template for the Emily Trace ones on my computer so that they look like a series.
Mhm.
And then we go from there. I've also got a couple other books that I'm going to be working on when I get time. One of them is called The Phosphor Anomaly. It's about genetic engineering and alien DNA, and it's set up in the Sandpoint area. And then another one is the sequel to my dystopian future, and that may end up being I don't know, I might play around with Kindle Vella and see how that goes. I'm not sure yet, but I have the ideas. These ideas come to me, and then I don't have time to get them all done, but I write down what I have thought about so I don't forget. So there's that. And Art Chowder keeps going, and I like that too, because I get to help other people that are regional. I just finished one on the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. Talked to the people down there, and I interviewed a gal that just was a realtor, and she got into what they call assemblage art, where you pick up little things on the beach and put them all together in artwork, and she's really good at it, and she's won some juried shows and awards, and she's a friend of mine, and her name is Sue Eller. That's how I met her on Facebook, because she friended all the Sue Ellers.
Oh,
So,
that's interesting. I never
and then
thought
another
of that.
friend of mine oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just saying I've never tried that. Interesting.
She actually made a she shed and organized all her findings, and then she gets an inspiration and takes this piece and that piece and puts it all together. It's pretty cool. And then there was Joey Marcella, who started out with his dad. They'd do marble countertops and things, iron and marble stairways and really fancy fireplaces and things like that. And then he decided to start on sculpture. And they're out at Liberty Lake, their shop. And he's worked with his dad until his dad retired. And he's a really fun guy to talk to. And I interviewed a guy that retired and moved up here from Southern California that used to do he did a lot of ads for like Disney. I might be misquoting a little bit, but he did all the Disney characters. He could duplicate them and, just fascinating people. We liked it.
Do you have other authors in the area? We've got some folks that joined today because they want to hear about or know about authors in the Spokane area. Do you have any you would recommend? I mean, it's putting you on the spot because there's got to
No,
be
that's fine.
but
Now my stupid, oh, you guys can't see that. That's good. My virus thing says megabytes of junk mail found. I'm not gonna deal with that right now. But there's a lot of authors. Jess Walter is probably one of the most famous, and he taught out at Eastern. He gave I don't know if he still does, but I remember one of my friends graduated from Eastern. We went to her graduation, and he was the speaker. And he's really involved with Spark Central. He vets all the books that go in there in the library.
He helped set that up.
What's that?
Jess helped set up Spark
Central. Yeah, I know he did. And he's worked for the Review, and he's written quite a few books. And I don't know what his time is like, but he's a good author. And there's so many that I have met, and I haven't even scratched the surface of the authors that I've met that are from this area. I interviewed a gal for the magazine down in Boise named Laura Buchanan, who writes about mysteries set in the San Juan Islands. And then there's another gal that lives over in the Seattle area that it has written quite a few books set in Louisiana that are more geared toward middle school, high school, maybe a little bit younger, but anyway, books in that era. And she has a grandmother that, no, it's not a grandmother. Anyway, she knows all about because she grew up in Louisiana. She knows all about all the voodoo stuff and all that. And yeah, interesting, very interesting. Jewel Parker Rhodes is her name. And then I interviewed a gal named Katie Cross that does young adult fantasy. And of course we have Rachel Ritchie, who does young adult fantasy, that lives here in Spokane. And
Tamara Berry.
I always forget his name, the guy that wrote Aragon.
What was that, Liz?
Tamara Berry. That's her name is Lucy Gilmore. But she came to Auntie's and showed her book. She does cozy mysteries and some other ones too. Do you know her too,
there's
Sue?
So many people I haven't met yet.
She lives in the valley. Yeah.
Interesting.
And I just since I was saying that I wanted to listen to you since you were from Spokane, and then I went ahead and listened to Tamara Berry since she was from Spokane, because it's just kind of fun, since I grew up here, knowing all these, and then you get all these new books you get to read. So
I know.
You guys have my address. So if there's another author living in Spokane, I may not know who they are. You could
I know.
It's like, because I'm out trying to find them all. And there's got to be 700. I know that.
There are. I keep meeting more and more all the time.
And I know Chris on the screen, in my screen, she's right above you, Chris Beaker, and she's written. You've done the 2, and you just released, or you're getting ready to release your 3rd one.
I'm finishing it up, but I'll actually be talking about the 2nd one, Blood on Bloomsday, Friday on the Paige Turner show.
Oh, so you
okay.
know the gal that does the page turner too. Yeah, that's gonna be fun.
Congratulations.
You'll like that.
Mhm. All right.
Well, and we have so many creative people in this area. It's just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Chris, you called it Blood on Bloomsday. So it's a, is it a murder mystery then? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. I'll have to look that up.
yeah, me too. That sounds
The first
fascinating.
one was what? Murder in Manitou? Manitou.
Murder at Manitou.
Murder at Manitou.
Oh,
So I just did some research for number 3, Horror at Hoop Fest.
oh,
Oh, you did the research because you could go down to Hoop Fest and do a little
Yes,
spot on. Good for you.
I volunteered to help out down there. It was a lot of fun.
All right. All right. Oh, great. Well, I looked
well,
at that one.
most
Yeah,
of
I
my
was gonna.
books, or these 3
What?
Emily Trace books are at Auntie's right now.
Yeah.
So they're available.
Yeah.
And I priced them. We worked out a deal with Auntie's. I priced them cheaper than they are on Amazon. Because Amazon's easy, you know, for an author to, and it doesn't exclude you from pursuing other things. All my books are that I know about, they're still listed on Ingram Spark because I opted for the expanded distribution. I like Ingram Spark, but they have a couple of things that are a little pricey that's not in my budget right now. But the expanded distribution, you can go into any bookstore and order the title because they are available through Ingram. So, including Andy's, I would assume. You order stuff through
It
Ingram
depends.
Spark.
They look
If
it
somebody
up.
comes in and wants a book,
They look it up and see what the terms are with Ingram. And because a lot of books are on there and they don't have any real discounts, so we can't order them there. But,
oh, well, I can't do a discount through Amazon, but I can take books down to Auntie's
oh
if
no,
they
I'm
want them
no,
anytime.
we wouldn't look them up on Amazon anyway. I'm talking
Yeah.
Ingram. We would look it
No,
up.
no, I know, but I can't do a discount through Ingram because my Ingram connection is through Amazon. That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
Ingram charges you like $65 per title to upload. And then if you want to be on the most of the bookstores, you have to be in their book buyback program, and that's if they don't sell, you have to buy them back.
yeah,
Ingram
we
doesn't.
don't. We're unable to order books from them if we see that it's not returnable and that it doesn't offer us a reasonable discount as a
Yeah.
store.
And I don't know much about that. I just know that's what I was told.
Because we've gotten into trouble in the past with people bringing books back. We couldn't return them. They got very angry at us.
Oh, yeah, you don't want to do that.
So, but anyway, and Dwight, I thought you had a question you were going to ask.
Yeah, a couple of questions actually. Sue, thank you again for doing this because I'm a member of both. You know, I'm in the Writers Guild with Sue, and I'm also part of this collective, and that's super important. Two things. First, you mentioned the Kindle Vella. You know, so I'm working on a series in Kindle Vella, and I think everyone should take a look at that in terms of publishing. It's kind of like a magazine article you're doing, minimum 600 words. And once you put it up, you can keep putting up as much as you write. You know, yeah, and it's automatically copyrighted. And what my goal is from what I'm working on right now, Amazon has a feature where once you have finished, let's say you do 10 chapters, you can then publish it after a month as a book. You know, so that's yeah. So that's something you can look into for sure. Yeah, I spent a lot of time looking at it. I'm like, this is pretty interesting. And the second thing, you mentioned about the local. I think someone mentioned it also. I think it's Liz. She mentioned loving to read books that mention where you grew up. And I cannot expound on that enough. You know, we have so many stories and movies about New York and Miami, you know, but the beauty of writing about where you are is that it has that uniqueness. It gives light to people who live there, who grew up there, and it's such a beautiful thing, you know.
Yes.
So definitely you want to have that local element all the time.
Well, and I do. I grew up in just south of Spokane in a small town, and I have relatives all over the place in this Spokane and Whitman County and over into Idaho. And so that's basically where my settings are for the Emily Trace series. So
I don't know if anyone, we started so late because of all sorts of problems, including my being late. What? How could you be? Well, you know, anyway. And so if anyone has to leave, we certainly understand. We'll keep going for a little while if there's more questions in that. So please feel free to stick with us if you wish. Um, but certainly if you have to leave, we understand. So you can just kind of go by and click yourself out.
and thanks everybody that has to leave. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate everybody showing up. It's nice to, the group isn't huge that shows up, but they're always very interested. And it's a very supportive thing for authors to know, especially
Yes.
if they reach new readers that they didn't know before. So I'm pulling threads out of my seat here. So
I should tell you that I do a lot of the high school craft fairs in the fall, because number one, it helps support the school. Most of them are for band or something like that. And I was in band in high school, so you know, I kind of have an affinity there. But I do several of those, and I love meeting people in person that either have read my book, one of my books, or are asking about it, because that's really special to me. And this is special to me too, talking to all of you. So, and I also, we did an event on Garland, the street fair. It goes all summer, but we only did 2 weeks of that. And the first week was pretty warm. The second week we got rained out, literally wind and rain and everything. We were rescuing our books, but I met lots of really cool people, and I did put my books on consignment at Garland Mercantile too. So
we have a message here from, let's see, Grace. She said, I have to head out, but this was great. Thank you, Sue. You are inspiring.
oh well,
I
good.
share that with you. And I think Dan's phone has to leave, and I assume he's going with it. So he said, thanks, Sue.
They both are very welcome. I appreciate all of you. So
Sue, do
and
you
being a
teach
reader, I
classes
know
then?
that if I meet an author, I'm pretty jazzed about that. I was privileged to attend the World Science Fiction Convention when it came to Spokane, and I met quite a few authors there too, and that was fun. I actually met the guy that wrote the episode "The Trouble with Tribbles," David Gerald. He was really fun, and got my picture taken with him. No, that was fun too. And I guess George R.R. Martin was there. I didn't have time to meet him, but I met several of the more local authors, and it was a great time. I like doing things like that. So, and we have a lot of talented people. We have some over in Idaho. There's a group, North Idaho Writers League, and um, and then there's a group up in Sandpoint. Um, Bonnie Dade is part of that one. Did you know Bonnie, Linda?
Yeah,
He was at Auntie's for a while and did the,
Bonnie and I are the ones together who about 18 plus years started this.
yeah, yeah.
So,
And I hadn't met her until after she left and went up to Sandpoint. So,
oh, gotcha. My cat says my other phone battery overheated. Loved a part of this that I did get to attend thanks to she was trying. She said she couldn't unmute. She had wanted to ask a question. If you can still hear me, Kat, you could type in your question on the chat, and I can ask that for you. And now we've lost Sue. Heavens. Well, I don't think I can answer her questions. Maybe she'll try to come back in here in a minute. We'll see. Something went wrong. Well, we've had a good day. If I'll give her a minute or two, if Sue shows back up, that'll be great. If not, it's been wonderful, folks. And the title of her book, Cat, is this current one is Meadowlark Madness. That's the first in a series, okay? And those are this one. There is another copy, at least I think, down at Auntie's, but they can always get some more for you too.
What was the last name?
Pardon? Her last name? It's Sue Eller. Yeah. Anything else to ask? Like, why are we having so many technical problems today? I think the poor stuff got scared from all the fireworks last night and just started fighting back. That's all there is to it.
Thank you. This has been great.
Anything else I can tell you about anything? You know, I'm good on the world. I can tell you whatever's happening and why. If you believe that, boy, have I got a story for you. Anyway, thanks for coming. And I'll just go ahead and say bye to everybody unless you are desperate to say something more. No?
Well, I'll
Thank
definitely
you.
say something more. It's not on topic, but it's related. If you have not checked out my book, I hope my background shows clearly, but it's called Inner Sanctum, Protecting My Peace Through Poetry. And I wanted the suit to be available longer, but I'm always a big fan of poetry, you know, as the best form of writing. Of course, I'm biased as a poet, you know, but yeah, check it out, Inner Sanctum, Protecting My Peace Through Poetry. And if you write, keep on writing. If you read, keep on reading. Just have fun with it.
And you
What's your name?
Oh, I'm sorry. Dwight
You have Thompson family. Dwight?
Oh, yeah. Dwight Thompson, correct.
Okay. Well, check it out.
Well, folks, it's hey, Jay, glad you showed.
Yeah, just
Jay writes
watching.
sci-fi, and one of these days we're actually going to see his books out in print, and that'll be wonderful. Did you want to say anything? I didn't mean to cotton. Tonda's getting ready. One of these days, she's going to at least tell us that she's halfway there.
Looks like she's closer than I am.
Well, you're both closer than I am.
I'm actually looking for a developmental editor, so
Oh, good for you. Yeah.
just because I want some insight from a developmental editor on the end of the story.
Okay, so I'm just happy I did not leave because I'm actually a developmental editor. So I don't know how we can connect. Linda has my contact information. She can send it to you or email me.
Do you do sample edits?
Correct. Sample edits, deep edits. Usually 1 or 2 chapters is sufficient. You know, so
the first chapter is 5,016 words.
Right now, you can actually do a private message between the two of you down there on the chat. If you've got the chat open, you can click, instead of everyone, you can click on that everyone, and you can click on the person's name.
Actually, on there, it only says everyone or you, Linda. It doesn't say anything.
No, That's
Yep.
wrong.
That is true. It only says everyone or
Everyone
Linda.
or Linda.
Yeah, because usually people are on all of my things, people are talking to each other. So that's weird. I didn't make it that. I mean, everyone is there, but if I click on it, it drops down the name. And I can switch it to like Jay. Direct message.
I also wanted to say, Jay, I have looked at your stuff. I'm
Okay,
I've
well,
had some
anyway,
health issues. I've had some health issues over the last month, so I'm
Go-
a little slow.
go
So
ahead and check with me. You can write via me. You can send an email and I'll,
Mhm. Yeah.
pass it on to the other person, vice versa, whatever.
yeah, if you
Yeah.
wanted to put your email or your contact information in the chat, then I can save the chat and I can go from there. Right.
I definitely will. I'm actually
I
trying
don't
to
think-
multitask at the same time. So
I don't think
yes.
Dwight's trying to hide it. Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording at this point.